Did you know it is estimated that 300 fishing-related deaths occur every day? If you are a fisher, please stay safe and always remember to bring a partner or two. Enjoy this scary experience from one of our Hmong brothers. Many Hmong avid fishers are stingy with sharing their hidden fishing locations, even when it comes to their own family and friends. They would boast about their fishing skills and the huge amounts of fish that they catch. But when asked about where they fish, they would avoid and give vague answers like, "Oh, it's okay, no," and so on. I used to be one of these people. If I knew of a good fishing spot, I wanted it only for myself. This is because words travel fast with Hmong people. If you tell one person of a good fishing spot, next thing you know, there's a whole crowd there. I hated sharing my fishing spots. That was until 2015, when I stumbled upon a hidden fishing spot. What I had experienced there led me to abstain from fishing for the next 5 years and forever changed my fishing habits. This is how it happened. I had just gotten fired from my job that summer, right during the peak of fishing season in Minnesota. I convinced my wife to let me relax for a month or so before I started job hunting. Living in the land of 10,000 lakes, my options were endless. I fished every day in the early morning hours. I explored the rural areas where there are secluded lakes and streams, just so I can avoid competition and crowds. One morning, I decided to drive down to the city of Owatonna, which is in the southern part of Minnesota. Once I got off the highway and made it into the city, I paid close attention to my GPS since I was unfamiliar with the roads. Following my GPS, I drove down a dark road with trees on the left side, and on the right side there was a cornfield. When you drive out of the Twin Cities like that, there are barely any street lamps. The roads were pitch black. The only thing helping with visibility were my headlights. While I was driving, I observed movement in the distance ahead. Upon driving closer, I saw that it was 2 men walking out of the cornfield. Of the 2 men, the older guy had a Hmong knife on the side of his backpack. They both walked out carrying fishing poles and a cooler that looked seemingly heavy. I drove past them before I realized that they were also Hmong. I turned my car around and got out to ask if they had caught anything. The old man said that the daily limit has already been reached, so heading home was the plan. He enthusiastically lifted the cooler into the trunk of his Tundra and opened the lid so I could take a peek at the white bass that he caught that morning. With his finger, he pointed behind me and said, He told me that I could follow the footprints and cut across the field to the stream where he fished. With sheer excitement, I grabbed my gear and hurried down the cornfield as they drove off. I followed the muddy footprints until I reached the end of the cornfield. I heard the sound of water rippling and soon arrived to a wooded area. It had a stream running through it. I knew this was the right spot when I saw tangled fishing lines that had been cut off and tall grass that had been freshly trampled on. I set my backpack on the ground. I noticed that there were honey bun wrappers on the ground. It looked to have been recently discarded. Assuming they belonged to the Hmong guys earlier, I picked them up and stuffed them in my side pocket. Not gonna lie, I felt a bit annoyed. I sighed and thought to myself, at least take your trash with you. I took my fishing rod, walked to the edge of the stream, and casted my line into the water. I cast it a few times and waited patiently. I started to wonder if I was using the wrong bait. I removed my phone from my pocket and attempted to do a Google search. I was unable to obtain any internet service, so I walked around the area in hope of getting service. As I was walking, one bar of service appeared as I approached the cornfield in the direction from which I had come from. I continued walking in that direction until the stream was no longer visible and my phone gained 3 bars of reception. I started searching. While reading on all sorts of baits, I glanced at the time and saw that it was 4:15 a.m. at this time, and I noticed that the sky was starting to lighten up a little bit. I could start making out silhouettes of things around me. I hear a big splash back at the stream. It sounded like fishes were jumping out and back into the water. I excitedly ran back because I didn't want to miss it. Upon arrival, there were no splashes and no fishes to be seen. It looked exactly the same as when I left it. Still, I grabbed my fishing pole and prepared to cast. As I slowly reeled my line and gently tugged to make my bait more appealing, I noticed something on the other side of the stream. There was a silhouette of someone standing in the woods. I called out, "Hey buddy, are you out here fishing too?" No response. Thinking it was awkward, I chuckled and proceeded to add, "I haven't had much luck this morning. Any idea what bait to use for these guys?" Still no response. By this time, I thought to myself, crap, are my eyes playing with me? That's probably not even a person, right? Maybe it's just a tree. I tried ignoring whatever person or tree it was and continued to fish. I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched by whatever that thing was. I thought to myself, screw it. I took out my phone and flashed it to the other side, hoping to confirm that it was indeed a tree. As my flashlight beam swept across the area, the figure quickly ran and hid behind a nearby tree. I inched up to the edge of the water so I could get a closer look. I looked up and down the tree, and at the base of the tree there was a bare foot, partially hidden. Its toes were still sticking out. It stood there motionless though. I kept my eyes on it, and I waited to see if it'll move. It suddenly let out an eerie cry, which made me jump, and my phone slipped out of my hand into the water. I tried grabbing it, but it was sinking too fast. I watched as the flashlight on my phone sank further and further down. Trying to get my phone back, I almost forgot that there was that thing still on the other side looking at me. I looked over, and the figure was gone. I swung around and grabbed my backpack. It was time to leave this place. I walked as fast as I could towards the direction of my car. Just before entering the cornfield, I realized I had left my fishing pole. I bought that thing for $500, and it had my favorite spinning wheel. I had to go back for it. I ran back to my fishing pole and grabbed it. Curiosity came over me, so I slightly looked over to the other side. The figure was now standing by the edge of the water on the other side. I stood there frozen in fear. I didn't know what to do. It jumped into the water. That's when I broke out of my frozen state and I started to run for my life. As I ran, I could hear movements and splashes in the water behind me. While backtracking through the cornfield, a figure suddenly appeared in the distance in front of me. I stopped and was terrified to move forward. That thing had caught up to me and was blocking my way. I took a closer look. It was the younger one of the 2 Hmong guys I had seen earlier that morning. He looked at me and knew something was wrong. He didn't say anything and just helped me walk back to where we parked. When we reached our cars, the older Hmong guy came out of the driver's seat and asked if everything was okay. I told him everything that just happened. I also found out that they came back because the old guy accidentally left behind his box of fishing lures. I was still shaken and scared, so I stayed back with the younger guy in their truck. The old guy took his Hmong knife with him and went to the water by himself to retrieve his things. I was concerned for him, but only a short moment later, he made it back. I asked them if I could follow them back to St. Paul because my phone fell in the water and I didn't know how to navigate myself back home. The older Hmong man said, "Of course." Before getting in my car, the Hmong man took pity on me, so he bagged 4 of his own fish and he handed them to me. He also handed me a piece of paper with his phone number scribbled on it and said, On the drive back, I was scared, but I tried my best to stay collected. As the sun came out and it got brighter, my fear also started to fade away. A few days later, when my wife did the laundry, she found the phone number in my pocket and gave it to me. I decided to give them a call, just to see what they were up to and whether they were going fishing anywhere that I could possibly tag along with.
Hello, yêu của.
Kuya tun nu ie mon nun je ne pe pa de na.
Nhớ trong mẹ tô. Nó nhớ bé bà đây của chỉ trong nụ ta chỉ mà có bé hai lũ đồ của cho lì mua. Lần ấy cho lì chả tiền mà. Nó đâu có một nón giấy lần sau lại.
Is he playing with me? There was 2 of them. Who the heck was that other guy then? There were so many thoughts that raced through my mind as I didn't know what to make of this information.
Chỉ ta lên đó lo. Thầu của trong các của cho cá nón giấy lo. Của sẽ cho năng tơ tàu cho lo bé ư olu chê. Mà của bội tay à sẽ chia sẻ. Của xua cho năng tơ chế mua bé chạy đĩa. Ít chạy yêu của chạy. Ít chạy yêu có chạy. Họ chạy thì bé mà trong này chạy tàu lia.
After that conversation, I started having nightmares every night about being back at that place, with the figure standing across the water. I exchanged a few phone calls with the old guy and told him about these dreams. He advised that I consult a shaman to do a ritual for me, in case that thing had latched itself onto me. My grandma had one of her shaman friends come and confirmed that it was a vicious ghost that was with me. She performed a ritual to kick the entity away, and she also gave me a new name. I didn't experience anything after that, but I was told to stay away from fishing for the next 5 years. I just started fishing again in 2020 during the pandemic. I always try to take a buddy with me, and we always go to piers that are close to the city. No more sketchy hidden places for me. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. When replacing my lost phone, I looked through my iCloud to see what was backed up. The timestamp of the last photo that was backed up was taken on the same day that I lost my phone. It looked to have been taken from underwater. You could see the blur of the tree outlines and particles floating in the water. On one of the corners of the photo, it's a bit blurry, but you can see what looks to be a faint human face. If I'm honest, it looks like him.